Hello and welcome back to the Middling Along podcast. My guest this time is Susan Saunders, who is a health coach and the author of books including the Age Well Project. Her determination to age well grew out of her own personal story, spending 12 years caring for her mum who had severe dementia. When she was first diagnosed, Susan was 36 years old with a toddler, a newborn and a full-time job, and her world was turned upside down. Not only was she mum and wife and boss, she was now a carer too. And what made this even harder for her was that as a teenager, she'd watched her mum going through the exact same thing with her own mother. She started researching everything she could about aging well, and that led to the Age Well Project blog and then the book written with her friend Annabel Streets, and a new career as a health coach helping others to age well too. Susan's only the third person in the UK to qualify as a coach, with neuroscientist Dr Dale Bredesen, author of the End of Alzheimer's, and she now helps women across the world reduce their dementia risk through her coaching work. Her next book on post-menopausal health will be published by Headline next summer, 2023. Welcome to the podcast, Susan.
Thanks so much, Emma. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
It's lovely to have you. So, tell us a bit more. I mean, probably not everyone who is sort of thrust into that caring role will go on to write a book about it. What made you different? Why did you decide to take all of that and sort of throw your energy into that learning and sort of sharing that learning with everyone?
It was a gradual process. It wasn't like, hey, my mum's got dementia, I'm going to write a book. Yeah, it was a very gradual process from just being absolutely caught in the headlights, trying to care for her when I had so much else on, being young, really, being 36 when she was diagnosed, and having little ones to deal with as well, and a job, for quite a long time I was kind of caught in the headlights trying to deal with that. But I was also really thinking about, well, what do I do to protect my own health? How can I reduce my own dementia risk? And started reading and researching when I could. And then I was talking to my friend Annabel about it, who has health issues in her own family. And she said, why don't we do a blog? So we started doing a blog, which initially was just really for our friends and people we knew. And then it grew because I think we sort of touched a nerve as two working mums who were trying to do the best we could for our health, and really digging into the research and seeing what made sense in our own lives and what we could actually do when our kids were saying, I'm not going to eat that, and I'm not going to eat that. And all that sort of thing. So I think that sort of touched a nerve. And from that, we got a book deal, which is amazing and brilliant. And while we were writing the book, I was thinking, this is great, and I really like writing a book, but actually I would like to help women more directly, which led to that sort of health coaching. So it was a gradual process over a number of years, and also I think fantastic and exciting and unexpected, particularly in midlife. I got a literary agent at the age of 50. And that was just so amazing and felt so brilliant. And to be honest,
a pinch me moment.
Yeah, absolutely. A total pinch me moment. And if that was as far as it had ever gone, that would have been just so exciting. So, the fact that it did actually culminate in a book and then further books, was even better. Really.
Do you have any kind of science background in terms of the research?
No, I don't. But I worked in TV for a long time, and I think if you can work in TV, and that involves a lot of research, you can sort of do anything. And for Annabel and I, the fact that we weren't scientists was important because it meant that we were trying to make sense of this stuff, because you see these headlines, which are often very dramatic, and it's actually, well, what actually does it mean, and how do we make sense of it, and how important is that piece of research versus that piece of research? So I think as just ordinary women trying to work it out, there is some relevance to what we're doing, because we're all trying to work it out. We're all trying to find our way.
We're all winging it.
What we do. We're all trying to find our way through and make sense of the vast amount of information which is thrown at us all the time.
Has your approach changed a lot since you sort of started researching for the blog and then the book, are there some things that you've radically changed your mind about?
Yeah, I think when we first started the blog, it was a lot of it was about food and nutrition and what we were cooking in our own kitchens. And I think I started from the point that if I ate the right things, I would be able to age well and reduce my dementia risk. And really, through the process, through all the research, I realized how much more there was to it than that. I mean, obviously, I knew I had to exercise, but I think probably, as a woman in my 40s then, exercise was still related to what I look like at that point. And of course, I've realized that's really not what it's about. It's really about how your body works and about strength and things. But also there are so many other things that we need to focus on. And nutrition is only a kind of small part of that. And we need to be thinking about sleep quality, which I hadn't really paid a lot of attention to, or how social we are, how we stimulate our brains, the world around us, how toxic is that? There are so many other things that are worth considering. I mean, not in an overwhelming way, but so that we have a kind of broader and more holistic picture of our lives, rather than obsessing about, should I drink coconut water? Or, I often, talking to my clients, and they get very hung up on quite small things like, well, is coconut water okay? Or, what brand of tofu? And actually, it's trying to keep the picture as broad as possible and to think about aging well as a whole lifestyle. So that to answer your question, that for me has been the change. That it's
the shift, the sort of 360 holistic approach. And you talked a bit there about the sort of the overwhelming amount of information, data that kind of comes at us. It never stops, does it? Sort of newspaper articles about, this kind of superfood, or, this causes cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So what sort of strategies do you can help your clients adopt that sort of deals with that tsunami of overwhelm, and how to approach it in a sustainable way day to day?
Well, I think you'll know this, but so much of coaching is about meeting your client where they are, and what is doable and what is achievable, and what do they want to achieve, how do they want to feel, how do they want their life to be, and how do we fill the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And it's sort of making small steps to kind of get us along that path, which are sustainable and doable. What can you actually do? Some of my clients are women who are unbelievably busy with families, quite demanding jobs sometimes, or other responsibilities. So, well, what can you actually do, and what is the next stage, the next step on from what you're doing now, rather than, right, you need to implement this whole new dietary plan.
Here's a
checklist. You need to be in the gym 5 days. Which is absolutely not what coaching is about. It's about what's the next step towards your goal.
And from the point of view of Alzheimer's prevention, presumably the earlier that we start thinking about that, the better. I mean, is there a sort of a optimal time to start, or is it basically tomorrow?
The optimal time to start is when you are ready, I think, is the answer. One of my clients said to me recently, oh, I wish I'd started doing all this 10 years ago. But she is approaching her mid-50s. She's got a 10-year-old. She's got a very demanding job. And I was like, 10 years ago, you had a toddler. You had a baby and a small child at school, and there's no way you were perimenopausal probably. There was no way that you would have been able to do that. So the right time is now, because this is when you're ready to start looking at tackling your dementia risk, building a life that will reduce that. So I mean, it's always something to be mindful of, obviously, but it's when you're ready to make the changes and bring awareness to brain health.
And can you talk a little bit about, in terms of sort of risk of developing Alzheimer's specifically, how much of that is sort of genetic and how much is modifiable by changes in lifestyle and in nutrition?
Only a small percentage is genetic. In terms of genetics, there is one specific gene that we know is linked to increased risk, and that is called ApoE4. We all carry 2 variants of the ApoE gene. It works in terms of carrying cholesterol around the body and the brain, and ApoE4 variant has been linked to increased risk of Alzheimer's. It doesn't cause Alzheimer's, it's a correlation. And that's something people have to be really aware of if they get tested through one of these testing systems that you spit into a tube.
Yeah, it's not a foregone conclusion that
so,
you will.
Yeah, and I always counsel people to be really careful before you do that kind of test, that you are aware that you might find out something that you perhaps didn't want to know. There might be something that causes you concern. So that's one thing. But if you find out that you carry that gene, and around 20% of us are ApoE4 positive.
Oh, that many?
Which is a
Wow.
lot, isn't it?
1 in 5, wow.
Yeah, and yet 1 in 5 of the population don't get Alzheimer's. So clearly not everybody who carries it gets it. You can have 1 or 2 variants of the ApoE4 gene. I know that I have 1. There are a lot fewer people who carry 2, and that does greatly increase your risk. But again, there are people carrying two variants of the ApoE4 gene who don't get Alzheimer's. And so much of it comes down to lifestyle, and lifestyle factors can greatly reduce your risk, even if you carry the gene. And it seems that, weirdly, but in a very positive way, the people who carry the gene respond better to lifestyle factors. Your risk, if you've got a healthy lifestyle, your risk comes right down if you carry the gene. So I think all of us need to act as if we've got it and do everything we can in terms of lifestyle to lower our risk, because lots of people who don't carry the gene do get dementia or Alzheimer's and related dementias. So not having the gene is not a guarantee that you won't get it.
And so talk about the earlier books, the ones that are already out. Those don't just deal with Alzheimer's and dementia. They're talking about sort of aging well writ large.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the Age Well project is the first book which Annabel and I wrote together, which grew out of the blog. And yes, it's very, very broad. It's about absolutely everything you need to know about aging well that that is science backed and you can do yourself. And then the Age Well plan, the second book which I wrote myself, is more of a coaching guide. It's more of a how to make all the learnings from the Age Well project work in your life day by day, week by week. So it's it's a 6-week program to kind of kickstart your own Age Well life, essentially. So yes, so they are very, very broad. But the dementia risk reduction element comes from my own interest, because my mum and my grandma, my own concerns. And I got the opportunity to train with Dr. Bredesen, as you said in your intro, who's an American neuroscientist. And so I took a further coaching qualification with him in the last year or so, which was really hard work. Oh my God, it was so
big investment of time and energy.
Yeah, it was really hard work, because he teaches the same course to coaches as he does to doctors. So you're having to operate at a really kind of high level in terms of the science, etc. And the pass mark for all the tests was really high. So
congratulations for passing.
So I was really, really happy to pass. It was really exciting. So I focused my one-to-one coaching on that, because I've just found I was speaking to so many women who potentially like me were caring for a parent or a relative with dementia, and could just see it and think, what can I do to try and make sure that doesn't happen to me. Of course, there are no guarantees, but I think having the confidence we're doing the best we can based on the science is just really reassuring and really important, that we can go through without that kind of constant nagging worry that, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said to you off air, I'm very much your target market. My mum was diagnosed quite early on, actually, in her life with Alzheimer's. She's still with us now, but it's quite progressed. And yeah, I don't need to tell anyone listening who's ever had a sort of a relative or a friend kind of go through this, what a really, really difficult disease it is, not just for the person who's experiencing it themselves, but for all of the people that love and care for them. So yeah, I will definitely be reading both those books. But tell us then a bit about the book that you just finished writing, which will be out next year.
Yes. So the new book is about postmenopausal health. And that has really grown out of obviously the whole age well thing, but looking more specifically at what happens after menopause, particularly when we have lost the protection of our reproductive hormones. You will know this, but estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, you wrap us up in this kind of protective cloak and keep us safe and healthy and well as much as they can, while we are in our reproductive years, which makes sense because
well done, nature.
Well done, Mother Nature.
Keeping us going so we can reproduce
so we can
as much as possible.
And keep the species going. It all makes sense from a scientific perspective. And then when those hormones decline, it's like Mother Nature says, "Okay, sunshine, you're on your own now."
But now we're on our own for increasingly long sort of lifespans. So actually,
exactly. And so all those wonderful protective benefits that we got for our bones and our brains and our heart and our inflammation levels and all those things, it's all gone. And it's on us really to look after ourselves in the years following that hormonal decline, because once we get into our mid-60s, statistically, our chances of getting diseases like osteoporosis, heart disease, dementias, etc., increases massively. So we kind of have this window of 10 to 15 years, depending on our cycles, etc., when we really need to focus on looking after ourselves to prevent those chronic diseases of aging kicking in, essentially. So I think menopause is so difficult for so many women and has so many horrendous health effects, but we need to be conscious that it's not just our hormones and our it's
not the end of the story once the sort of the period stop and you go, yay, no more of that.
Exactly. It's an aging transition, essentially. It's a rapid aging transition, which sounds much worse than it is. It is a point at which how our body works changes at a very fundamental level. And we just need to address that going forward. And I know for women who are in the throes of horrendous perimenopausal symptoms, that that might be that's hard to hear. And actually, of course, the priority is to deal with those. But it's also just bringing awareness that kind of long term, we just need to look after ourselves. That Mother Nature's not doing the job anymore. We need to do it.
And I think we probably are the first cohort of post-menopausal women. I say we. I'm not post-menopausal yet, but that kind of have that knowledge and that level of awareness of what the ramifications are if we're not putting that work in to look after ourselves. I mean, certainly, not my mother's generation, just didn't have that information available to them and suffered accordingly.
Yes, and we still don't have enough information. There still isn't enough research being done on women's bodies, and particularly in menopause and beyond. But it is starting to change. There is more research being done, and we do have that knowledge now of what our reproductive hormones do in terms of protection beyond just being hormones of reproduction. And so that's really what the book is about, is kind of focusing on that, and also on the positives, that once we are no longer chained to a monthly cycle, it can be very freeing and very empowering for a lot of women. And there are lots of amazing women in their 50s and beyond who are doing incredible things. And I interview some from the book. And I know you have talked to people like Karen Arthur, who I've also interviewed, who are just living amazing, fulfilling lives post-menopause.
And I think it's important that we have those kind of role models of kind of positive aging, and not sort of feeling like it's the end of something, but it's the beginning of a different chapter.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a transition. It is a beginning of a new chapter, and that can be very exciting and positive. But we do need to look after ourselves. And of course, if we're still having persistent symptoms of menopause beyond the final menstrual period, we need to deal with that too. But it's looking to it with positivity.
And I think maybe that's something as well that is less kind of well known, perhaps, that post menopause, some of those things like hot flushes can, for some people at least, keep going for many years.
I've got clients who have hot flushes in their 70s, but then lots of women don't. As soon as you say one thing, you don't want to worry other people. Lots of women don't, and their hot flushes will be managed or will taper off. We're all so different. We're so individual. I mean, I think that's one of the issues with this time of life, that we all have such different experiences. It's very difficult to generalize, and probably why it's very difficult for doctors to deal with it too.
You talked a little bit about osteoporosis, but is that one of the things that is generally impacts people in much the same way? I mean, we know that there's this sort of drop off in muscle mass and in bone density. Is that something that's also very variable throughout the sort of the population?
It is, but we all lose bone density, particularly from menopause and beyond. We're losing it from when we're kind of 30, but going through the menopause transition, that is a particular time when we start to lose bone density more, because estrogen and progesterone work together to help maintain the turnover of bone. One thing I didn't realize before we started writing about aging well is that our bones are constantly being remodeled. They're constantly changing, and I just thought you stop growing and then your bones are solid, and that's
it. They're just there.
Exactly, just do their job. But actually, they're constantly being remodeled, and it is the reproductive hormones which drive that process. So once the hormones have declined, that process of creating new bone really slows right down, and so we're losing bone density post menopause, and we need to work on that. We need to work on our muscles and our bones.
And there's definitely the statistics around, if you post 50, post 55, if you break a bone, the kind of the impact on future morbidity levels are quite stark. Yes,
absolutely. Yes, there's some very frightening statistics around hip fracture, for example. Your chances of being fully mobile again are decline very rapidly as you get older. And yes, as you say, morbidity sort of post a bone break for older women is high. It's really high. So that's why we need to work on it as soon as we can. To keep our bones strong or resilient. I say strong, actually, no, to keep them resilient. I think that's more important. The really important thing is to avoid fracture, and having the densest bones is not necessarily going to do that. It's having resilient bones.
And that's where the things like your strength exercise and sort of building up your muscles, and also balance as well. And just it's such a kind of 360 again picture, isn't it? It's like you can't just focus on the one thing and then neglect kind of the bit over here, because they all interplay.
Exactly, because it's the balance that will prevent us having the falls, which is what caused the fracture, and it's avoiding fracture that is the key thing. And then we work back from there and think, what do we need to prevent that happening?
So when's the book due out? I know you said it was next year. Have you got a rough?
I think early summer. I'm waiting to hear from my publisher, actually. So I can't give you an exact date.
Okay, we can't put in a link for you to pre-order it yet, but we'll definitely keep people updated. I'll come back in and update the show notes when we're able to pre-order it. So yes, I know there's definitely those three. All three are going to be on my teetering to read pile, which just never seems to get any smaller. So I look forward to reading that when it comes out. One thing, actually, I was going to trying to remember to ask my guests, is there one thing that you wish that you had known going into your sort of perimenopause transition period?
I wish I'd known what it was. Honestly, I'm 56 now. I think I was probably perimenopause from my early 40s. I had no idea. I just thought I was going a bit mad, and my periods were a bit haywire. I really didn't know what it was.
No idea.
Really had no idea. And my doctor said I was depressed. I wasn't given antidepressants. I was sent on a CBT course, which was good, actually. That was really useful, but it didn't help perimenopausal symptoms beyond the road rage. But I just wish I'd known that word, and wish I'd been able to say, right, well, I'm going through this experience, and therefore I am going to get really angry when my husband said I was in Tesco for too long,
but at some point I'll come out the other side, and it will be okay.
As so many women say, I just thought it was me, and didn't think it was an actual condition. It was that my body and brain were going through this very profound change. I wish I'd known that. And I think also I wish I had known, if I had known what perimenopause was, I wish I had known that it is so much more than just a reproductive change, that it is this major kind of midlife transition that we go through.
Yeah, it impacts absolutely everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for your time. I'm really, really grateful. And good luck with the book.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. Really lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Middling Along podcast. Do remember to subscribe to be notified when our next episode is live. And why not visit the blog at www.middlingalong.com to sign up to my newsletter as well. I do hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, I'd be really grateful if you would consider leaving a short review, as that helps people find the podcast and helps get it noticed. Hope you can join us next time. Goodbye for now.